Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the overall political situation in KP as far as the five major political parties are concerned. What can we expect in the upcoming elections? What are the overall trends as far as KP is concerned with regard to the major political parties, the contestants, independents? A little later on, we'll also be talking about the comments, the address by the Chief Justice today as he spoke on law and the superior courts and also the role of the judges when deciding difficult cases. All of that today on Perspective. I have with me today Faraz Ali Khan, who's a political analyst, and then we'll be joined by other guests during the course of the program. Ji, Faraz, can you hear me?
Ji, Marukh, I can hear you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Faraz, overall, as a situation in KP, as I understand, there are five major political parties at this time. How do you look at it, comparing it to this overall scenario during the last elections, as, you know, of course, we're now 18, 19 days away from the day?
Marukh, KP is a very interesting situation right now. If you look at it, KP, it's very interesting to find out that PTI is the only party that has fielded, nominated their candidates from all the constituencies of the KP, may it be National Assembly or the Provincial Assembly. But now there's an interesting twist to it as well, with the symbol going away from the PTI. Their own party members have emerged. There are now multiple candidates within PTI who are contesting the same constituencies. So where we see PTI being a very strong party, its presence everywhere in the KP, PTI has become a monster for itself in PTI election campaign for 2024 with multiple candidates. So with KP, it would be interesting for PTI to hold up things because PTI is going to cut off PTI's own votes. And when we talk about other parties over there, well, it's very interesting to see that you only see ANP being the next largest party appearing with the candidates in KP, with roughly around 13. They're leaving 13 seats for National Assembly in KP, and they're leaving.
What about the role that we've seen the former CM Pervez Khattak's party? How would you look at their role in the upcoming elections?
Interesting, Marukh. I was looking at the analytics for that as well, because I was very much keen to know about how would PTIP be performing over there, where apparently they've left around 28 seats for National Assembly. PTIP is not filing candidates around for 28 seats from National Assembly, and somewhere around 45 seats being left by PTIP for Provincial Assembly. So apparently PTIP, ANP, PMLN or PPP, you talk about them, it seems like they would be banking on these individual candidates who are not fighting under the umbrella of PTI bat now. Now they are what we call it in Urdu, Azad Umidwar. They would be appearing there, and apparently it seems like they would be banking to make their government on those people who would come up being elected on the basis of being supported by PTI. And since
for the winner, ultimately, it's going to depend where these independent candidates eventually decide to go. And that's, of course, mostly with the party in power. I mean, whoever takes the center, right?
KP has always been a different ball game. Center, you can say with Punjab, they might go with the center, but KP has had governments who were not aligned with the centers as well. You can see from 2013 and 18, PMLN was in.
So then, if we look at, for example, let's talk about individual. For example, the PML-N. At this time, we're looking at the former Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab also contesting, as I understand, from KP. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari also. So there are, party heads, notable party heads also contesting from the same areas, I mean, as far as KP is concerned. So do you think that is going to play some role? I mean, of course, are they feeling confident? What are the overall effects of this kind of candidature?
Well, Marukh, see, with party heads being contesting from different places, this has been a symbol. As they have to show their strength, these party heads, they have to appear from different multiple constituencies from all over Pakistan. Shehbaz Sharif had been contesting his elections from Karachi as well. That does not mean he's going to win the seat over there. So this is more of a symbolic constituency that they've filed their nomination papers from there. Now, coming back to this, do they really want to win KPK? Well, have you seen any gathering political activity by PMLN or PPP in KPK? So no, I haven't. Only ANP is the only party that is seen actively preparing for election in KP. And PTI definitely has its own problems right now, where they can't actually go out, and that's another debate. But with KPK, only ANP seems to be in real serious game. They want to pull something out of it.
I think it's going to be, of course, like you said, the role of the independents and whether those people, fragments of the PTI itself, and whether they can later form, the party themselves, or whether they can, go with other parties. Those are things that are in a flux at this time, right?
Well, Marukh, with that symbol going, this has to be a loss for the democratic powers. The reason is that all these individuals who are going to win independently will definitely open floodgates for horse trading. Like they would win the vote or the confidence of the PTI supported people. People will vote for them because they apparently belong to PTI or supported by them. But since they would be individuals and independents, they won't be legally bound to join PTI when they reach National Assembly. And this is going to be a problem when electing prime minister. Horse trading is going to be too common now. And then later on, definitely, senators, when we have Senate elections, KP and Balochistan also play a very, very vital role over there with their, limited strength.
Let me come back to you, Faraz. We have with us Ikhtiyar Wali, who is from the PML-N. Can you hear me, Wali sir?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wali sir, what is the overall position of your party as far as KP is concerned at this time? Of course, what kind of inroads do you think the PML-N will be able to make in the upcoming elections now that we're very close?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Aapki awaaz kat rahi hai.
Ikhtiyar, hear me now?
Yes.
I think there's a problem with audio. Can you hear me now?
Ji, could you repeat your question, please?
I'm saying, what kind of inroads can the PML-N expect to make in the upcoming elections now that we're about 18 days away from the day?
In fact, PMLN is very much geared up for the next election, and we have launched our campaign. Our leadership is, they have been stepped out, and secondly, we are on the ground with the high spirits, and the people are welcoming everywhere the symbol of lion and the party of PMLN. And our leader, we believe that Mian Nawaz Sharif is the only and lonely leader who can rescue this nation, who can rescue this country in this from this very hard situation due to the previous government, which was a government which was being brought in by the people.
Support. Do you think that the PML-N has that kind of support? The earlier vote bank of the PTI. Do you think that there are people who probably are going to support the PML-N from those ranks also?
I don't know what's wrong with this system. Your voice is, I can't hear you. I can very hardly hear you. Can you?
Well, Isab, I'm saying, can you expect there to be inroads in terms of, the vote bank of the PTI? Largely, of course, there is, as far as your leadership, as far as Maryam Nawaz, as far as Mia Saab also, the former Prime Minister, Mia Nawaz Sharif Saab is also saying that it was a stolen election, even as far as KP was concerned. In view of that, do you expect there to be a vote bank on the ground support from those who had earlier perhaps supported the PTI?
Look, this tabdili, this was being brought in by some hidden forces, by some hidden arms, which was being the Mia Nawaz Sharif and all our party leaders, which pointed out right on time. And if you remember, we claimed that election 2018 has been stolen from PMLN. That was a mandate stolen, of the public mandate stolen. and Imran Khan, he was not having the support of Pakistani people. So we know and we believe that PMLN is still the biggest, the largest, and the very famous party of this country. And we have the leadership like Mia Nawaz Sharif, we have a leader like Mia Shahbaz Sharif, we have a lady leader like Maryam Nawaz who can lead this nation, and we have a team to rescue this country, to rescue this nation from this hard water and very hard situation. So PTI, I don't think so that PTI is still a popular party and they are having a public rapport or support. Or I don't think so. So I am contesting from National and Provincial Assembly from both the constituencies of NA 33 and PK 88, Noshera. And I'm facing the people, I'm meeting the people everywhere in bazaars, markets, everywhere, hujras.
Ikhtiyar Sahab, there is, as far as for example, at this time, you don't have Mehtab Sahab, your leader earlier on. He was thought to be, electable. He had his support. Now, what is the situation on the ground? Is he still a part of PMLN? Is he also going to be, supporting the PMLN? What is the on-ground situation now?
You are talking about whom?
Mehtab Sahab.
Mehtab Sahab from Hazara?
Asi.
Okay. Sardar Mehtab Abbasi, he has left a party and he's contesting his election independently from Ahmedabad, and that's his own choice. And we have nominated our own candidate, who is namely Javed Murtaza Abbasi, with the symbol of lion, and he's contesting his election and running his campaign very well. And I'm sure that he will defeat Sardar Mehtab Abbasi with a big margin.
Hafiz Ahsaan Khokar Sahab, who's a legal expert. Hafiz Sahab, I want to ask you this question that, Faraz Ali Khan brought up. He said that, as far as these elections are concerned, when you talk about independence and you talk about those people in the PTI who don't have the symbol, this is a recurring question now because it comes up again and again, because everybody is now talking about the role these independent candidates can play, their potential role in forming government later on. Can they join after the elections? Are they part of a party? Because we have, as I understand, something of a clarification from the Election Commission saying that they haven't been delisted, the party itself, but they don't have a symbol. So what is the situation there?
There are two aspects. One aspect is the enlistment of a political party under the Election Act 2017 is a totally different thing. And the second point is when you are enlisted as a political party under the Election Act and you get a symbol under section 215 of the Election Act, you can field your candidates in both for the parliament and for the provincial assemblies. And when they elect on your election symbols, they have the constitutional clock. The clock is the Article 63A of the Constitution. Number one, they have to obey the instructions of the parliamentary party head and of course the party head of a political party on 4 occasions. One, at the time of vote of confidence while as the Prime Minister of Pakistan or the Chief Ministers. Second, at the time of the money bill. The third, at the time of the constitutional amendment. And the fourth is at the time of the vote of no confidence, which you have seen in Punjab that there's a number of people who did not obey the instructions of the parliamentary party and they were disqualified not only, but their votes were not counted, and there is a judgment of the Supreme Court of Pakistan. So in this particular context, if someone is elected as a independent candidate and he becomes a member of the National Assembly or the Provincial Assembly, he has 3 days, and he has 3 days to choice to join any political party.
No, but are they going to be independent? That's my question. Under the situation right now, where
they
don't have a symbol, but they haven't been delisted.
They have been delisted, but it is out of the parliament. The members who are elected as an independent candidate, they are within the member of the parliament or the provincial assemblies. So they don't mean that their party is enlisted with the Election Commission of Pakistan and they will remain as a political members of that political party.
Well, Hafiz, no, but as I understand, the situation at this time is that they haven't been given a symbol. They are still a part of PTI.
Definitely, all these members, they have the membership of political party like a PTI.
But then why are they contesting as independents?
Because there is a legal problem with the PTI, because the election symbol was not given because of Section 209 of the Election Act. They failed to hold the intra-party elections as per their constitution and as per the Election Act.
So they don't. So I'm just trying to understand, and I'm sure that so they are not contesting under the symbol, but they are a part of PTI. So therefore, they can't whether they win or not, they cannot then join another political party.
They can join another party because their status is altogether a different one.
That's what I want. What is their status?
They can join a political party. They can join PMLN. They can join PMLQ. They can join PPP, and even they can join a PTI Nazriyati, PP parliamentarians of the KPK. So there would be no, any legal clog on them, because while they are elected as a member of the National Assembly or Provincial Assembly, their status is an independent. So they can join a political party, whose political party which has a membership in a political party.
Don't they come under the party discipline?
They will not come. They will come outside the parliament. Inside the parliament, the only discipline is the Article 63 of the Constitution, which recognizes the authority of a political party. But in that particular situation, if a political party does not have the election under a symbol, so they can't make a parliamentary party within the parliamentarian, so there would be no clog and there would be no legal restriction on these members.
So you think that they are, so then if they're not a party, then they don't have then they don't form reserved seats. They don't get reserved.
Definitely. That's why there are 3 days for any independent candidate. They have to choose a political party.
No, but there is a list that the PTI has submitted.
No, they can change it. They can change it. At that time, the list of the reserves of
the list of the reserved candidates that have been submitted by PTI.
It is not accepted by the Election Commission of Pakistan.
So it has no. So then, so that list is then exhausted.
The list is only then who are allotted election symbol under Section 215 of the Election Act. Those lists are eligible for the election purposes. In that particular case, if for the sake of argument, there are more than 50 elected MNAs or at simultaneous the provincial levels, so they have 3 days option. If they opt the PMLN, PMLQ or the People's Party, the strength of these political parties would be increased, and proportionally the reserved seats to the extent of the women seats and to the extent of the minorities will be increased. And if these political members of the National Assembly, they will not choose any political party, they will get the proportion seat according to their proportions which they obtained in National Assembly or the Provincial Assembly.
No, but the independent candidates together will get, you're saying?
No, the independent member can't get together.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they can't. Neither they will form a political party inside over there, nor they can get the minority seat or reserve seat relating to a woman.
Right, I want to
So all goes with those political parties who participated in the elections under the election symbol of Section 215.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to go to Muneeb Qadir, who's a legal expert. Muneeb, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right. I want to move on and talk about the address of the Chief Justice today. We also saw Athar Minallah speak, among others. How do you look at what was said today in terms of the role of the judiciary, in terms of the role of how the judges must act during difficult decisions, difficult cases, in the light of the recent judgments that have come from the Supreme Court?
I think that this was a very important speech that the Chief Justice delivered, and also along with him Justice Athar Minallah, and it marks a turning of the tide, I believe, in the sense that the previous Chief Justices, most particularly, Chief Justice Saqib Nisar, or well over a decade ago, Chief Justice Ikhtiyar Wali, I don't believe that they were very free speech friendly, so to speak. But with Justice Qazi Faiz Isa here talking about and emphasizing on Articles 19 and 19A, I mean, the fundamental rights to freedom of expression and the freedom to have access to information. It's very important that this is what he's highlighted. It shows that here's a Chief Justice who wants transparency. I mean, this is the Chief Justice who has brought this whole concept of live broadcasting of some of the most important constitutionally proceedings that take place in the court. And so what happens is that people even beyond the courtroom, i.e. the public, feel more connected to the way that important legal matters are decided, matters which are going to have impact on a national level. And also the fact that he highlighted diversity, wanting to, dispose cases justly and fairly and in a manner which is time efficient. I mean, just the way that he pointed out that like a total of 4,466 cases had been registered, but by contrast, more than 5,000 of the cases had been completed. And about inclusivity, he did mention that a female district and sessions judge had been appointed as Supreme Court registrar. So this shows that here is the Supreme Court where the topmost judiciary of the country is very aware of bringing about such an environment that we have an open conversation and the judges enter into a dialogue with the wider society upon whom their judgments are going to have an impact. And again, Justice Athar Minallah, the way that he talked about not weaponizing contempt laws and allowing room for journalists, for example, or law reporters, to be able to give fair comments on judgments pronounced by our judiciary. I think that is very important, because I think that 2-3 years ago, had I been on your program, I would have been self-censoring myself. But with this kind of environment that the new crop of top judges have created, where they are very much open to listening to fair criticism, even of their own judgments, or any feedback that members of the public may have, it just creates an environment of openness and transparency. And Justice Athar Minallah talked about judges not being influenced by social media. I think that's very important, because recently, last week, the PTI bat symbol case, I think that generated a lot of controversy and a huge amount of, I think, internet trolls tried to malign Chief Justice and tried to suggest that the decision delivered by the Supreme Court was somehow not based on bona fide grounds, which I think is completely baseless. And the fact that the Chief Justice and the Supreme Court judges, they did not feel pressured into delivering a popular decision, but they really stood by rule of law, that if a political party does not contest its intra-party polls within the constitution, in their own constitution, then they must face the music. And so they stood by their decision. I think that these are very welcome developments.
Right, fair enough. Muneeb, let me come back to you. How do you feel, Hafiz, overall, with what Muneeb is saying? Of course, the role of social media was discussed, and like he said, the fact that popular decisions, it's not about popular decisions, but about the application of law, which is what, good judges do. Was a lot of what was said was about this. How do you look at the address overall, and do you think that, the role of social media and the pressure is a very real factor for judges now? Also, maligning them, also the bad press, the trends is also a very real reality now.
Marukh, there are two aspects of these two speeches. One is the Chief Justice of Pakistan, to his side, he was explaining about his performance for the last 3 months, how they have opened the court, how they have started the live streaming of the important constitutional matters, how they conducted the full court meeting after many years. And then he spoke on the different areas, like the conducting the proceedings of the Supreme Judicial Council, and definitely Article 19 and 19A of the Constitution. He emphasized and he acknowledged this fundamental rights, the Article 19, that the freedom of expression. So it is a good sign from a Chief Justice of Pakistan that he has shown his openness, and he has shown that this is a fundamental rights and there should be no restriction on it. And to the extent of Article 19A, access to information, he has quoted his case about the Supreme Court when information was sought by the Information Commission of Pakistan, that was declined. There was an order, it was challenged the High Court, and then it was matter before the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and Supreme Court accepted the stance of the petitioner and dismissed the judgment of the Islamabad High Court and acknowledged the right of granted under 19A of the Constitution. So this is a good sign from a Chief Justice of Pakistan. He has believed that there should be openness, there should be a transparency, and there should be an accountability through media, and they have a right to make some criticism if they think that is not a good judgment. But acceptance or not acceptance, this is not the issue. The judges are there to announce the judgment, and the people are who are there who have a right to criticize. But the speech of Athar Minallah Sahab is very important. He especially because he has been involved in lawyers movement, and both these judges, they are the product of after 2009. So they really knew the strength of the media, because the lawyers movement basically was started by the lawyers, and then it was flourished through media, by the electronic media, especially the print media, and to some extent at that time the social media was not as much as we have in the 2023. So they were the out products, and Athar Minallah Sahab many times they appearing on the TVs and spoke about the rule of law and the constitution. So he knows the strength of the media. He knows that freedom of expression is how much important. He knows that the restriction on the statement and the public expression should not be in a way to hurdle the working or the fundamental rights is given in the constitution. But more important thing, with the passage of time, the social media.
But you think it also shows, let me come back to you. I think I'll go to Muneeb and then I'll come back to you. Muneeb, do you think it also shows the trend towards perhaps, when you are not having, reforms, formal reform in the parliament, do you think it also shows perhaps a trend for, perhaps an informal kind of reform within the Supreme Court? When you see, the concentration on the caseload and how the cases are being disposed of, the time, the way it looks, the not to feel pressure, all of that, is it also an informal perhaps way to move towards reform?
I think going by the speeches that have been delivered by Justice Qazi Isa and Justice Minallah, I really don't think that they are in the mood to usurp the role of the legislature or to engage in judicial activism, as it's called. I mean, that is quite much apparent and evident from the fact that, Justice Qazi Isa also pointed out that a petition had been filed by a private citizen seeking details of Supreme Court employees, and he had directed the registrar to provide all the details within 7 days, in pursuance of Article 19A of the Constitution, and similarly, actually quite contrary to any suggestions that the judiciary is somehow aiming to redraft the Constitution in the name of interpretation of the law or what you may. I think Justice Athar Minallah pointed out that a constitutional amendment needs to come only from the legislature, and he did particularly emphasize on the 18th constitutional amendment and disclosed that he believed the Supreme Court should not interfere in constitutional amendments. So all these are very promising signs that we have a judiciary which is very well aware of the role that it has been tasked with, which is of upholding the law, of interpreting the law, but not of engaging in policy making or law making. And like I've said, this is in direct contrast to some of the predecessors of the current Chief Justice. And I think that this is a welcome change, because we do need all the institutions to remain within their constitutional limits.
Is perhaps taking a back seat here. And perhaps we're moving towards a more conservative style of adjudication.
Are you asking me? Because I missed your voice in between.
I'm saying, and perhaps we're moving towards a more conservative style of adjudication.
I mean, more than conservative, I would call it orthodox, because that is exactly what is within the proper jurisdiction of the courts. It should not be judicial overreach or trespass into the territory of the legislature or the executive for that matter. And I think that it is to the credit of the judiciary that the legal aspects of the upcoming election, for instance, they have been very amicably resolved, and some credit does go to the judiciary that they've ensured that the law related to election is followed and upheld, so that I believe that we are now moving towards a free and fair election. So, I mean, hats off to them for the work that they've done.
Right, fair enough. As far as Hafiz, when we talk about, perhaps orthodox or perhaps, conservative, whatever one may call it, do you think it's also going to reflect in the overall caseload? Because, of course, pointedly, the Chief Justice said that, he talked about the number of cases that have been disposed of, the target overall. So you think that it'll probably end up in a more efficient system?
No, no, no. We need to have a major surgery in our legal system.
Okay.
And there is two aspects. One is the amendments in law or the role of the parliament. And the second role is important is the judiciary. And the Supreme Court Chief Justice is a very important position in the constitution. And he is heading also the National Judicial Policy Making Committee, where all the chief justices of the province are there, the chief justice of the federal Sharia court is there, and he is there to oversee the performance of the judiciary and as well as about the laws which are being troubled during the whole process of the litigation. For the sake of argument, now we have the criminal justice system started from 1860, the Pakistan Penal Code, and then we have the 1898 the Criminal Procedure Code, and then we have another law about the civil matters in Pakistan is 1908 the Civil Procedure Code, and we have 1940 the Arbitration Act. So in that particular situation, if we overall the situations with the judicial system in Pakistan, it is all the responsibility of the judiciary to advise to the government of Pakistan and the provinces that please change the law and do away the procedural technicalities which hindering the dispensation of justice. Now, because of this situation, now there are three aspects further. One is might be there should be a lack of priority by the parliamentarians for reforming the justice system in Pakistan. There is another problem with our justice system is that there is a lack of putting the resources, the due resources in our judicial system. Now we have a 240 million populations, and you can see the strength of judges over there. Then there is another problem that too much technicalities in our civil and criminal system that makes another problem for speedy justice in Pakistan. So one responsibility lies with the judiciary. They have to make within their own system to dispense justice and to make certain satisfaction level for the people of Pakistan. And simultaneously it is also important for the parliamentarian to have a new legislation to come up with new system and to negate the outdated system and live in 2023 what are the requirements of the people of Pakistan, what are the requirements of the citizen of Pakistan. This is the most important area, and where there is a disconnect between the judiciary and the parliamentarian, and this is because of these political questions which regularly arising in the Supreme Court or the High Courts. Every time you can see for the last many years that there is a problem with the government and the problem with the Prime Minister, and the matter goes to the Supreme Court of Pakistan, and the controversy start in terms of jurisdiction and in terms of the criticism. And that criticism and jurisdiction ultimately harms our system and the people of Pakistan, because the energies of both the sides.
So what can the courts do? I mean, let me go to Muneeb. Muneeb, I think that Hafiz Sahab raises a fair point, but what can the courts do? What can, they can't shy away from, dealing with political questions when there are so many that go to court, and there are so many controversies, there are so many questions, political questions that need adjudicating upon. So it's a slippery kind of slope, right?
I completely agree. And the thing is that the judges should be able to identify and separate the legal from the political, by which I mean that there are a lot of legal cases which do show up in front of Supreme Court benches and for them. And within those cases with political undertones, the judges should be able to extract the legal aspects of those so-called political cases and focus only on what the law says and give a legal solution to the problem at hand. And so, of course, there's always, an intersectionality between politics and the law, but the judges' focus ought only to be on the law. So I think, for example, in recent times, the disqualification case, which has been dealt with by the Supreme Court, in which they've held that the Constitution does not mandate disqualification for life. And there's very reasoned, well-reasoned, detailed judgment from Chief Justice Qazi Faiz Issa and the rest of the members of the bench. And they have put a 5-year limit on disqualification, for example. And they've stated that in the previous cases where disqualification was supposed to be for lifetime, that was based on an error of law. And so that was not in accordance with the Constitution. So, for example, correcting the wrongs of the past or any miscarriages of justice which have taken place in the past, which have also then had very bad impact on the politics of this country. I think addressing those does become important. Just, quite early on in his tenure as the Chief Justice, Justice Qazi Faisal, I think he also talked about the need for the Supreme Court not to be a one-man show. And I think it was very brave of him of actually curbing his own powers, that it couldn't be him and him alone to be deciding some of the most important cases, but the benches would be formed in consultation with the next two most senior judges, and that is why he declared the Practice and Procedures Act to be valid. So I think that the judiciary is going in a very good direction, but at the same time, I'm also glad that they are not focused only on political cases. They're also talking about cases related to legal issues which have impact, wider social impact. For example, I mean, just yesterday, the Chief Justice has mentioned that drugs and Kalashnikovs and the Kalashnikov culture, these have destroyed the country. So he's also talking about the things, for example, which impact upon people in their day-to-day lives, that you should not be able to carry weapons and dangerous weapons around. And I think that these are the kinds of things that we need to now focus on. Is the law being followed? And not just by politicians, but also by ordinary citizens. Because unfortunately, if the judges get too much embroiled in political controversies, there is always the risk of them becoming partisan, politically partial. And that, could spell doom for the rule of law. And we have seen that in the last few decades.
Hafiz, what Muneeb said earlier on, he said that, it's not going to, of course, the Chief Justice was, he's categorically said that he's not going to usurp the role of the Parliament, of course, and he's very clear on there being that distinction. But do you think the way that now he's looking at cases, of course, I mean, it's going to have some effect on lower courts also?
Marukh, and in the constitution, the ultimate well-being for the people of Pakistan, the citizens of Pakistan, this is the ultimate well-being of the constitution, and this is the spirit of the constitution. And that constitution defines three areas. One is the parliament, the second is the executive, and the third is the judiciary. So these three areas simultaneously will serve the people of Pakistan, and this is the spirit of the constitution. Now, until and unless these three areas will sit together for the welfare of the people of Pakistan and to redesign our judicial and governance system, the country will not move forward. Because you are saying that the independence of judiciary, the supremacy of the constitution through the legislation, and the role of the executive. It is described in the constitution, but ultimately we need to redesign the system of governance and the system of justice in Pakistan. And this is the important that these three institutions, the executive, the parliament, and the judiciary, they need to sit together. And simultaneously, their role is independent. The Chief Justice is rightly saying that we should not assume the role of the parliamentarian, but for the larger interest of the country and for the larger interest to make an efficient justice and governance system in Pakistan, these institutions need to sit together because we had a very bad experience for the last 76 years. We have a low ranking judicial system, we have a low ranking in governance system, and that basically hinders the economy and the growth in Pakistan. So I believe that who will be in the next government, they will take the priority on the justice and governance by calling all these people, sit together in the larger interest of the country, having their own independent role, but for the people of Pakistan.
Right, fair enough. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us. Muneeb Qadir, thank you for joining us. Hafiz Ahsaan Khokar Sahab, thank you for being with us today. Overall, of course, we've seen the Chief Justice address and Athar Minallah's address, and overall their comments seem to echo that they want there to be decisions based on law, that of course they want to send the right kind of message to the people. They want to send the right kind of trend for the future as far as the superior courts are concerned. But of course, for there to be actual solutions, for there to be actual results, they will have to be long-term reforms within the judicial system, for there to be the kind of results we want to see within our courts. Thank you so much for being with us today.